hello, he said, I'm Owen Penry, and this is a neurodivergent reading of Buster Keaton. So Buster Keaton is a silent film actor from mainly popular in the 1910s and 20s, known for doing work mainly oriented around characters who are sort of like all of his films are driven by a main inciting incident, which is his love interest saying that she will marry him if he becomes if he inhabits some kind of conventional and maybe stereotypically masculine role. But because Buster is a little boy, you know, he's not very good at being a masculine person, or rather expressing any kind of conventionality in general. However, in trying to become that kind of figure, he expresses his sort of wit and his charm and his beauty, and in his failures and so his love interest then sees his charm and his beauty and is like, yeah, I like it, you know. So it sort of promotes authenticity. So our agenda for today, I'm just going to be, you know, kind of going through, introducing my research question, my thesis, telling you how I came about exploring that question and deciding on that thesis through my methodology. And then we're going to spend a lot of time close reading Masking and Keaton's films, which we'll get to in a second. And then, of course, we get to conclusions. So my question is, what can be learned from applying a neurodivergent reading to Buster Keaton's films? I say that a neurodivergent reading redeems the seeming clownishness of Keaton's characters and validates unconventional ways of existing in a predominantly neurotypical society. So my methodology, there are all kinds of Keaton's films that can be explored with a neurodivergent reading, and they're all very, very rich in material, but I decided to choose these two mainly because I like them the most, and also because they're good for this. And then I also apply psychological understandings of different non-normative neurotypes, such as experiences with ADHD or autism, etc., various different kinds of non-normative experiences. And in understanding those, I apply them to Keaton's films, to Keaton's characters' experiences, to understand what he's going through as a character, which is kind of a neurodivergent reading, but I'll kind of get to that. It's mainly a neurodivergent reading. It's in the humanities, we tend to look at works of art in with certain lenses. Neurodivergent reading isn't really a term coined in literature, but it is based off of mainly, if you're aware of queer theory or crip theory. Crip theory being a study of characters with physical disabilities and how they're represented in media, or in media, how they interact with their world and environment. So to establish a definition of neurodivergence, I kind of amalgamated many different definitions that I found in like all over the place. But neurodivergence is a non-medical umbrella term that is used to describe people who experience, interpret, and navigate the world in ways that are radically different from other people. Here is the sort of neurodivergent umbrella of all the different kinds of non-normative neurotypes. You know, like I said earlier, ADHD. There's also things like dyslexia or OCD, various sorts. This is a non-exhaustive list, so this isn't like all of them, but it's the kind of the popular ones, the ones that we're probably pretty aware of. And then here's a quote from a film scholar, Gilberto Perez. He says, "Truly to belong in that immense machine that is Keaton's world, a man must conduct himself with the unthinking proficiency of a machine, and that's not something Buster can manage." So just to kind of, to relate Buster Keaton to these neurodivergent qualities, he is out of place, wants to be in place rather, and but can't. So that's when masking kind of comes about. And to just quickly introduce masking, it's described as like identity management. It's something that all people do, not necessarily people with neurodivergence. Everybody does it. If they have a quality that is not exactly accepted by a grander society, then they might want to change that or conceal that. And it's driven by stigma avoidance. And but the reason why I fell into neurodivergence is because it's like if a person is more inclined to express or display unconventional behaviors, then which is a person with neurodivergence, then that person is probably more inclined to face societal stigma because of their behaviors. So the first of his films we'll look at is Cops, and this sort of expresses the drawbacks of masking. The quality is very poor, but just bear with the old films. But as you can see here, he's running away from the cops, and he sort of escapes into the police station, but he then assumes the identity of a policeman to get away from them, and then he sees this woman who earlier on in the film said, I could marry you if you become, like again, if you inhabit the conventional role. But when she sees him, she realizes she doesn't love him, and so he is absorbed by those cops. And so what that clip does is that it demonstrates masking as a reaction to societal condemnation of neurodivergence. Earlier in that, the context of that clip, I probably should have given, but I'll give now, is that he was, because earlier on in the film, the woman said you have to assume this conventional role. He was never able to, and so because of that, it kind of got him into different mishaps, which led all of those cops to chase after him. And those were simply just misunderstandings, and the cops just didn't understand his interpretation of different situations. And I wish I could show you all those moments, but the time, it also shows that masking doesn't help. Like by assuming the role of a policeman, he doesn't get what he wants. He doesn't get the girl. He also doesn't get to, represent himself authentically. But although the conflict is resolved, the only desire that is fulfilled is the desire of all the cops of society. And so, but it also interestingly reflects the need for variation in neurotypical society, because we see that all those cops had one idea in mind, which was to continuously chase after Keaton until they got him. And there wasn't a single cop that thought to do something else, like say, hey, what if we, don't go into that police station rather blindly? What if one of us stood back and is he going to come out the only entrance of the police station? Maybe, And so, if they did have a neurodivergent mind, they probably could have been more successful. But the reason they are successful is because masking was too oppressive for Keaton to handle. And then we see again the allure of masking in Steamboat Bill Jr. In the following clip, you're going to see Keaton is once again not exactly a conventional figure in his town, and his father is trying to instruct him how to steer their boat, because it takes two people to steer the boat, and Keaton's his man. You can see he's directing him, saying, "Hey, look at this, you gotta do that." But then Keaton gets distracted. He looks at that thing. He's like, "What is that?" And he pulls it, and then it goes. It hits the boat. Those people tumble. And that behavior, that distractibility, is reflective of ADHD symptoms of distractibility. And then he tumbles over the like a log that was on the floor. Why is there a log on the floor? This is the most important place to be in a boat. But nevertheless, let's yell at Keaton for tripping over it. And let's really try to. What his father's doing here is it's social condemnation. He's trying to discourage the behaviors that Keaton is naturally inclined to perform. So, like I said, ADHD symptoms of distractibility. But I want to keep in mind that I'm not trying to diagnose Keaton. I'm simply just showing that these behaviors are reflective in his behaviors, and in doing so, and by seeing that these behaviors are reflective, or that they're reminiscent of ADHD symptoms, we can see that we're really just looking at what happens, like basically what's the societal reaction to neurodivergent behaviors, and then what is a neurodivergent person's reaction to society's reaction. But then, yeah, social perception of neurodivergent qualities. That's essentially he gets condemned for it by his father, but also the people on the boat actually end up going on to his boat and physically assaulting him. They like punch him up and stuff, and which doesn't. The idea of masking it seems enticing now, because he's like, I don't want to receive any more punishment from society. I would like to be comfortable like my father, maybe celebrated like my father, and so he will try to become that. But however, thankfully, unlike cops, in Steve Owen Penry, we don't see that. We see the necessity of neurodivergent authenticity. And in this clip, to give context, it's a lot of context because a lot of stuff happens. But basically, Keaton, his father, he accidentally got his father into jail. His father's in jail, and then a storm hits this town and blows away all this stuff. Blows away buildings, and everybody in the town has evacuated and has gone into shelter that can withstand a storm. But except for Keaton, he's the only one that hasn't, because he slept in. And so he has to then go. Oh yeah, and then his father is in jail. But the jail that his father is in gets blown by the storm into the river, and so that's the building you see there. Okay. Wow. And so it's in the thing, and then he has to find a way to save his father, and so we see that here he's tying ropes to the lever that makes the boat go, and he's also tying ropes to the he fails here, but it's a bit of funny stuff, and then but he ties ropes to the brakes to be able to leverage, and you'll see in a second why he's doing this. There's his father. And Keaton brings those ropes up to the steering wheel, and what he's doing is he's inventing a way to steer this steamboat with only one person. Originally, it was only one person, or two people. You had to have two people to steer it, but now he's invented a way to do it too. And we see that the reason he is able to do this is because of the previous moment of distractibility. His thought process didn't diverge away from the boat. It simply diverged away from his father's direction, which is a neurotypical direction. And then see his dad pop up and
That's great.
And so we see the importance of authentic behavior. We see that his distractibility led to saving his father's life. And also, for more context, you see in that picture over there, he gets the girl. She's all like excited by this. She's like, "Yay, he's not basic." And so to quickly address some a counter argument, so I guess common interpretations of Keaton. And if you don't know of Keaton's work, you might think this yourself, but it's described in a book called The Persistence of Comedy. That Keaton's character trace a dramatic arc developing from incompetence to heroism, and we see that that initially that his behaviors might seem incompetent. He might seem incompetent, and this sort of arc to heroism is not Keaton's development, but rather our perception of Keaton. We understand that he's not initially incompetent. He doesn't grow or anything. He does, but in his value to society, he doesn't become more valuable or anything. He was already valuable. But anyway, so what a neurodivergent reading teaches us about Keaton's films is that he's more than a clown. Like I said, he's not just this figure to laugh at or anything. There's this idea of Schadenfreude where a person takes pleasure in seeing someone else in tremendous pain, which I guess a person can watch Keaton's films for that reason, but I think they can get so much more out of it if they use a neurodivergent reading or any kind of other reading than that. Because the purpose of this is that we learn that Keaton's films celebrate divergent thinkers, and we see their value, and we understand that that neurodivergent qualities, or what some people, what the psychological field might deem as neurological disorders, are really disorders or diseases or things to treat as things to counteract or to sort of diminish, but things to maybe explore and understand, and maybe even to maybe even cultivate something of value. And that's my work, and that's it. Thank you.